Welcome to Pirkei Avot. We're still in chapter 4. Excuse my voice. I have a cold, but I do not want to be too long without any ethics of the fathers, any Pirkei Avot. I'm showing it backwards like a Western book. I like to have ethics and morals in my ears at all times, and it keeps me personally on the straight and narrow. So let's go. Don't mind my voice. And we're only going to do a few Mishnah anyway. So let's get going. So we're in chapter 4. We're looking at the Mishnah that starts with Rabbi Yehuda said, "Be careful and study, for an error in study counts as deliberate sin." And before, what am I thinking? I want to do this, the shiur be in memory of Rabbi Bernstein, and also like to dedicate to my mother, Iris Elizabeth Roque and Jean McBurrows. May their memories be for a blessing, and whoever you want to dedicate to, may their memories be for a blessing as well. Rabbi Yehuda said, "Be careful and study, for an error in study counts as deliberate sin." How can you have an error in study? Rabbi Shimon says there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But the crown of a good name supersedes them all. Okay, let's get back to this first one. Rabbi Yehuda said, Bartanura said, let me explain this. He says, "Be careful and study, such that your study should be exact and according to the law. For an error in study is considered an intentional transgression. If you err in a legal decision from your not being exact in your study, and you come to permit the forbidden, the Holy One, blessed be He, considers it for you as if you had done it intentionally." Okay, so he took that to the courtroom. And, I'll look and jump up here. And the Sforno says, "That which you failed to learn due to carelessness is regarded as a willful transgression. For you are willful in your indolence, as it is written, but they regard not the work of Hashem. Therefore, my people are going into captivity for want of knowledge." And you'll find that in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 12 through 13. Now, Rav Pelkovitz, remember Rav Pelkovitz is the one that elucidates the Sforno even more when we are having a little bit of struggle with Sforno. He'll jump in and save the day. He is the writer of this book, the editor of Sforno's commentary. So Rav Pelkovitz says, in the halakha, a distinction is drawn between an inadvertent act and a willful one. Morally, however, and it's done like that, you'll see that in the book of Torah too. There are sacrifices for things that you did that you don't know about or whatever. And then the things that you do know, like say, for instance, if some money was stolen or you borrowed and you didn't repay, now you got to pay back the original amount plus 20%. So there's measures for the things that you do know you did. Sometimes there's the death penalty, all kind of things going on there. So there's acts you didn't know about and there's acts you did know about. So he's saying here, you got inadvertent acts and willful ones. Morally, however, it is not only the action and result that is judged, but also the circumstances, including indolence, which brought it about. Failure to learn is not a willful positive act, but rather a negative action. But what is the cause for this failing? So the Sforno explains that the statement of Rabbi Yehuda is as follows: one's careless misinterpretation may have been inadvertent, but it was caused by his failure to apply himself to Torah study, and that was done knowingly. The proof from this verse in Isaiah is also a most telling one. The want of knowledge is due to a failure to study and to pursue knowledge, which may seem to be a negative act, but nevertheless, the prophet cautions us that one will be punished for this indolence. Wow. Now I said, wow. Now let's get to the second part of this, where it says, Rav Shimon said there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But the crown of a good name supersedes them all. So Bartanura said, okay, these 3 crowns. These are the 3 crowns that are written in Torah, that the Torah obligates to treat with honor. That would be the priest, the king, and the Torah itself. But the crown of a good name supersedes them all. So he said, now let's look at the crown of Torah. About it is written in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 32. Leviticus 19, verse 32. And you shall respect the face of the elder, the zaken, the one who has acquired wisdom. The first letters of these words, Zeh, Shekinah, Chokhmah, spell out zaken. Wow. Now, Bartenura says about the crown of priesthood. About it is written in Leviticus 21, verse 8. And you shall sanctify him. He shall be holy to you, the priest. And about the crown of the monarchy, or the king, or whoever is, leading, the king, however you want to say it. It is written, Deuteronomy 17:15, surely place upon yourself a king, that his fear should be upon you. But the crown of a good name, whoever has in his hand good deeds and a good reputation because of his deeds, we have not found a crown for him in the Torah, such as the one that's obligated to honor its bearer, as we found in these verses. But it rides on top of them all, as all three of the crowns require it. All three of the crowns require a good name. Wow, whether you're a priest, whether you're an elder, whether you're a priest, elder, or king. Let me see. Oop, I just lost my place. Let's see. But it rides on top of them all, the crown of respect of a good name, as all three of the crowns require it. Since if he is a Torah scholar and his reputation is hateful, it is permissible to disgrace him. Wow, they didn't have a problem with crowd shame back in the day. And if he is the high priest, we say in Yoma 71b, let the children of the nations come in peace who are doing the deeds of Aharon, and let not the sons of Aharon come in peace who are not doing the acts of Aharon. If he is a king, it is written in Exodus 22:27, and a prince among your people, you shall not curse when he does the actions of your people. Sforno says, 3 crowns, but the crown of a good name surpasses them all. 3 crowns were granted to Israel from on high. However, these crowns may only be worn by those who merit to wear them, providing they have the crown of a good name. Wow, so you have to have a crown of a good name to merit the other ones, but not in any other manner, and certainly not if it is to the contrary. For indeed the sages said about a Torah scholar whose ways are pleasing to the people. What do they say concerning him? Well, they say, do you see how fine are the ways of this man who studied Torah? Of him the verse says, Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Yoma 86a. Isaiah chapter 49 verse 3. It is then that the Torah is a crown and a sacred diadem. The reverse, however, let me take a sip of this orange juice. The reverse, however, is true of a Torah student and a scholar who has a bad reputation. As our sages state, what do people say concerning him? They say, see how corrupt are the deeds of this person who studied Torah? Of him, the verse says, these are the people of Hashem and are going forth from the land. You'll find that in Yoma 86a again, and Ezekiel 36:20. Wow, Torah scholar with a bad. How can you teach Torah and have a bad reputation? That just seems crazy. And everybody talking about him? The same can be said of the crown of the the crown of kingship, as we find in the case of Jehoram, who killed his brothers and the princes of Israel. Wow, see 2 Chronicles 21:4. As a consequence, the verse says, and they made no burning for him as they did for his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. 2 Chronicles 21 verses 19 through 20. So Rav Pelkovitz wants to speak on this. The commentary of the Sforno, which links the crown of Torah, priesthood, and royalty with the crowns of a good name, that is, that each of these crowns must be accompanied by a good name, is similar to the interpretation of the Bartenura. The proof that the crown of Torah must be accompanied by the crown of a good name is found in Tractate Yoma 86a and is self-explanatory. As for the crown of priesthood, this proof is from the sons of Eli, who are called sons of Belial, who were guilty of unseemly behavior, as recorded in the book of Samuel, chapter 2, verse 12. Oh yeah. It was pretty bad. The need for a king to conduct himself in a proper manner is proven by the Sforno from the life and death of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, who killed his brothers. He wasn't accorded the royal honors at his funeral, which normally consists of burning the royal bed and certain personal belongings to indicate that no other person was worthy to use them. This practice, as well as the privilege of being buried in the tombs of the kings, was denied King Jehoram. Okay, that's the end of that Mishnah. Next Mishnah. Okay, Rabbi Nehorai said, go as a voluntary exile to a place of Torah. Go as a voluntary exile to a place of Torah, and say not that it will come after you. For it is your fellow students who will make it permanent in your hand, and lean not upon your own understanding. Ooh, us in Western thought, we so familiar with that. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5. Bartonura said, what does this mean? Exile yourself to a place of Torah. It's kind of funny English, isn't it? If there are no Torah scholars in your place, that's what he says, exile yourself to a place of Torah. Let's read the Mishnah again. Go as a voluntary exile to a place of Torah, and don't say that it will come after you. The Torah will follow you. So Bartonura is saying on this part, and don't say that it will follow you, meaning that Torah scholars will come here. Meaning you go to a place where there's no Torah and say that people will follow you. So, and that your colleagues will make it yours. This is a funny Mishnah. It's just weird. Let's keep reading what Rav Bernstein says, because he's so anxious for us to know. And don't rely upon your colleagues when they return from the house of the teacher that they will make it yours, such that you will learn from them what they learned from the teacher, but rather exile yourself, to the place of the teacher. Stay at the teacher's house. Since learning from the mouth of the student is not the same as learning from the mouth of the teacher. Another explanation could be, Rav Bernstein says, is as your colleagues will make it yours, meaning, why do I say to you, exile yourself to a place of Torah? Because your colleagues will make it yours. As even if you are sharp and extremely analytical, the Torah will only be yours through your colleagues with whom you give and take, and that is the reason that it ends. Do not rely on your understanding. You could be top Torah scholar in the world. You could be a Rav Akiva. You could be a Rav Akiva on ice. And you still have to have your colleagues to help make you sharp. That's where all your learnings come out. And you know this when you study something, and then you talk to somebody else, and all of a sudden all this stuff just starts coming out of your mouth and theirs. And then it's just, you're jiving, and you got a cipher going, and it's like, whoa. Anyway, Sforno says, exile yourself to a place of Torah, meaning that when you are compelled, now this is Sforno, he wants to weigh in on what this means. When you are compelled to move away from your community in order to earn a livelihood, you want to go someplace where there's no Torah because you want to make the money, or for some other reason, you choose, if you want to go away to make money, choose a place of Torah, and don't say that you will disseminate Torah in your new community. Oh, when I get to this new neighborhood that has no Torah, it will flow from me when I come back from work, tired and hungry. Don't say that. Don't say it will disseminate Torah in your new community, which is presently devoid of it, and that you will cultivate new disciples. Psh. Because even though it may be true that a large number of students will increase and sharpen your understanding of Torah, nonetheless, they cannot cause it to remain with you to the same degree as your colleagues who are equal to you in erudition. And don't rely on your own understanding. That is, don't assume that your understanding will endure even without intellectual interchange with colleagues, for it may happen, as it did in the deep with the sage Rabbi Nehorai, that you may forget all or some of your Torah. In his case, the ones who retrieved it for him were his colleagues, as related in Tractate Shabbat 147b. Sforno said this was a true story. The sage that gave this Mishnah, it happened to him. He moved somewhere and lost all his Torah. Rav Pelkovitz about to fill us in on it. The Sforno interprets the phrase, "For it is your colleagues who will cause it to remain with you," as meaning that only they can ensure the retention of your Torah knowledge. You're all in the same classroom together, so they know what you learned. They will make sure you keep what you keep, as you will make sure they keep what they keep. As for your own students, although they may stimulate your innovative talents, they cannot preserve your original store of knowledge. This interpretation differs from that of the Bartanura, who explains that Rabbi Neharai teaches us that the transmission of a teacher's instruction through another can't be fully understood or appreciated unless one hears it directly from the teacher. Alternatively, he interprets this statement to mean that only your colleagues can clarify Torah through their intellectual interchange with you. But you alone cannot grasp the true meaning of Torah, regardless of how bright and sharp you may be. This explains the concluding statement, "and do not rely on your own understanding." The Sforno points out that Nehorai was another name for Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, who went to the Galilee. And he was enticed into leading a life of luxury and pleasure, as a result of which he forgot all of his Torah knowledge. You can see that in Tractate Shabbat 147b. I'm going to check that out. However, his colleagues prayed on his behalf and he regained his knowledge. This is the meaning of the phrase, "For it is your colleagues who will cause it to remain with you." He did, however, learn a lesson from this experience. Therefore, he emphasizes the importance of moving only to a place where Torah study is practiced. Yeah, but he was trying to live a life of luxury and pleasure. So you can live a life of luxury and pleasure in a place where Torah is practiced? Like that kind of, I guess, I don't know. Anyway, my man had to change his name. You know how you got ghostwriters and stuff? He had to ghostwrite this Mishnah. Wow. All right. Okay. And we're going to check out this last Mishnah of the day. I think that's all my voice can take. Let me get a drink. Oh, no. Yeah, this is the last Mishnah. Rabbi Yanni said, "It is not in our hands to explain the reason either of the security of the wicked or even of the afflictions of the righteous." Oh. Funny language to say, why do the wicked get good things and the righteous one suffers? Kind of question. The second part is Rabbi Matthiah ben Harash said, "Upon meeting people, be the first to extend greetings, and be a tail unto lions and not a head unto foxes." Wow. Oh, that's a hard one. Okay, so let's look at the first part. Rabbi Yanai said, "It is not in our hands to explain the reason either of the security of the wicked or even of the afflictions of the righteous." So Bartanura says, we do not have in our hands, like Yavamot 105a, it was not in his hands, meaning to say, this matter is not known to us why the way of the wicked is successful and for what reason the righteous are suffering with afflictions. Another explanation, during the time of the exile, we do not have any of the tranquility and quiet that the Holy One, blessed be He, is accustomed to give to the wicked in order to drive them out of the world to come. And not even any of the afflictions that are designated for the righteous, which are the afflictions of love, which do not entail the squandering of Torah study. Okay, so Rabbi Bartanura is saying, we do not have in our hands, like Yevamot 105a, it was not in his hand, meaning to say this matter is not known to us, why the way of the wicked is successful and for what reason the righteous are suffering with afflictions. Another explanation is during the time of the exile, we do not have any of the tranquility and quiet that the Holy One, blessed be He, is accustomed to give the wicked in order to drive them out of the world to come. Wow. And not even any of the afflictions that are designated for the righteous, which are the afflictions of love, which do not entail the squandering of Torah study. That is to say, we have left the category of the wicked as we do not have the tranquility that the wicked have, but we've not reached the category of the righteous as our afflictions are not afflictions of love, like the afflictions of the righteous. Yeah, I don't get that one at all. I don't know what the afflictions of love are, but it's afflictions of the righteous. And Rav Bernstein says we don't have that. If he don't have it, I know I don't have it. Okay, be the first to greet every person. So he goes to the second Mishnah, part of the Mishnah. Be first to greet every person. It even means greet a Gentile in the marketplace. So Rabbi's going to give you a shout out at the marketplace because that's what Rav Bernstein says he should do. And be a tail to lions, meaning to those greater than you. And do not be a head to foxes, meaning to those lesser than you. Wow, so that Mishnah is Rab Matthiah ben Harash said, upon meeting people, be the first to extend greetings, and be a tail unto lions and not a head unto foxes. So that's that Mishnah again. Sforno says, let's talk about that first one. It's not in our power to explain the one about good things happening to the wicked and bad things happening to the righteous. It's not in our power to explain either the tranquility of the wicked, why they have such a good life, or the suffering of the righteous. Behold, when the Tana says the tranquility of the wicked, he refers to the kind of tranquility that only the totally wicked can attain. As it is written, the tranquility of fools shall destroy them. You get that in Proverbs 1, verse 32. And it's also written, those who deal treacherously are tranquil. That's in Jeremiah 12:1. Now, this kind of tranquility cannot be realized even by the perfectly righteous, although he may merit 2 tables, one in this world and in the world to come. And if you don't know what the tables are, I would say check out Proverbs chapter 8 and chapter 9. You should see some tables there about wisdom setting the table. I'm thinking that's what he's talking about. As the sages say, Jacob desired to live in tranquility, but the Satan came and disrupted his plan through Joseph. Wow, Jacob desired to live in tranquility, but the Satan or the Satan came and disrupted his plan through Joseph. The adversary came and disrupted his plan. Through Joseph, the accuser, the Satan, said, it is not sufficient that the righteous have rewards stored for them in the world to come, that they seek to live at ease in this world as well. You'll find that in Bereshit Rabbah 84, verse 3. However, all this seems to run contrary to the beneficial assurances of the Torah and also seemingly contradicts the teaching of our sages, who rhetorically asked, if the righteous could enjoy both worlds, would they find it distasteful? You'll find that in Horayot 10b. Also, the kind of suffering which is the lot only of the righteous, namely suffering of love, which befell Abraham, can befall a person even though he has not sinned, as our sages of blessed memory teach us. If a man sees that suffering is visited upon him, let him examine his conduct. If you're suffering, check out what you're doing. Look at your conduct. Look at what you've been doing. If you examine and find nothing objectionable, then let him attribute it to the neglect of Torah. You weren't studying. If he doesn't find that to be the case, you've been on your Torah studies, let him be sure that they are chastenings of love. Brachot 5a. Our sages also explain that this category of suffering will befall a person only if he cherishes them and they are beloved and acceptable to him, as our sages state. Is this true, even if it is against one's will? Therefore it is written, it pleased Hashem to crush him with illness to see if his soul would accept it as a guilt offering. Isaiah 53:10. Just as a guilt offering must be brought willingly, so too suffering must be endured willingly. Brachot 5a. Wow. Suffering must be endured willingly. Aye. The Talmud relates that both Rabbi Hananiah and Rabbi Yohanan would ask those who were crushed by suffering, did you cherish your affliction? Do you cherish your affliction? When the individual would answer neither they nor their reward, they would extend a hand and, one of those rabbis would extend a hand and stand them up, and the suffering would cease. Wow, just by extending the hand up, the suffering stopped, whatever they were going through. But upright men are astonished by this, an expression based on Job 17:18. For all this world seems to imply that God, blessed is he, desires that his pious ones suffer physical pain even if they have not sinned. Let me just fix my notes. Also, this would seem to contradict the verse, for he does not willingly afflict or grieve the children of men, Lamentations 3, verse 33. And also it contradicts the teaching of our sages who said, There is no affliction without transgression, Shabbat 55a. And besides, if this is God's will, how could a tzaddik or a righteous person reject his suffering? Reject it. Would this not be contrary to the will of his maker? And how can it happen that his affliction would suddenly cease if he does not willingly accept it? Like if he accepts it, does it make it go away, or what is this? To resolve all of these difficulties, this wise man, Rabbi Yanai, the one who wrote the Mishnah, he states, it's not in our power to explain either the tranquility of the wicked or the suffering of the righteous. It means that in all the benevolent assurances stated in the Torah, there is no mention of the tranquility of the wicked. Similarly, in all the maledictions stated in the Torah, no mention is made of the suffering of the righteous. For indeed, the tranquility of the wicked, which means that they have sustenance without pain, as was the experience of the generation of the flood, of whom our sages say, the Almighty, blessed be He, granted them a taste of the world to come, because they had no afflictions while they had sustenance without pain. They did not, it wasn't hard for them to make money, have a good life, such and such, such. You'll find that in Sanhedrin 108b. For 7 days before the rains began was never attained by any righteous individual after Adam's sin, upon whom it was decreed, by the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread. Wow. What an insight. Despite all the benevolent assurances stated in the Torah, it was never destined that the righteous be sustained without pain. Rather, it is written, and you will gather in your grain, Deuteronomy 11:14. From prophetic writings and the teachings of our sages, it is apparent that no righteous person will ever attain this kind of tranquility until Messianic times. As it is written, there will be an abundance of grain in the land, Psalm 72:16. That's so cool. And as our rabbis explain, the land of Israel is destined to bring forth cakes and robes of fine wools, Shabbat 30. Meaning that Israel and Eretz Israel will at that time revert to the condition, the land of Israel will revert to the condition of Adam before the sin. This is also what the sages meant when they said, he who experiences no suffering for 40 days in this world has already received his reward of restful tranquility destined for him in the world to come. You'll find that in Eruvin 16. Meaning, if you ain't got some issues happening nowadays, you are in your heaven. You are in your paradise. So if you got some issues in your life, then you know the Messianic times is ahead for you. Now, the sage Rabbi Yani tells us that as for evil visited upon man, the Torah does not indicate that painful suffering can come to men without prior sin. But the same token, it follows that the kind of tranquility enjoyed by the wicked is not the recompense foretold by Torah, nor are the sufferings of the righteous the punishment ordained by the Torah. Rather, the tranquility and prosperity of the wicked is for the purpose of elevating him to a higher roof, so that his fall into the deep pit be all the more intense and dramatic. Oh my gosh. You have easier life so that when it's time for you to fall, it's going to be longer. The harder the life, your fall is less. As for the sufferings of the righteous, which can be characterized as chastisements of love, these can only come to pass when the righteous person wants them to be visited upon him. Wants them? This in turn may occur when the tzaddik was presented with the opportunity to perform a mitzvah, which had he performed it would have entitled him to reward, but does not make him liable for punishment when he fails to perform it, as we find in the episode of Nahum in Ta'anit 21a. He did not hasten to feed the poor man before he unloaded his mule and felt deeply distressed because he had been negligent. When the righteous one is deeply pained by such an act of omission, to the extent that he accepts divine punishment upon himself and willingly accepts a painful suffering upon himself as a penance, then it is doubtless considered as though he did perform the mitzvah, and he thereby finds increased favor in the eyes of the Almighty, the Blessed One. It is in such a case that a tzaddik can control his suffering, commanding it to be visited on him or to depart, as the Talmud relates regarding Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, and others as well in Bava Metzia 84b. Yeah, that's just showing me all the I don't know about those heights. I don't know if I want I don't know if I can say that. Bring that suffering upon me. I got it. With this, our wise Tana, Rabbi Yani, also resolves the doubts and questions raised by Jeremiah in chapter 12 and Habakkuk chapter 1, who lamented and cried out against the injustice of the righteous who experiences adversity and the wicked who prosper. Now Moshe, our master and teacher, explained this phenomenon when he said, "And he repays his enemies in his lifetime and make him perish." Deuteronomy 7:10. And when he said, "Who does not show favor and who does not accept a bribe?" That's in Deuteronomy 10:17. Who does not show and he does not accept a bribe. Now our Tana resolves these doubts by stating, it is not in our power to explain either the tranquility of the wicked or the suffering of the righteous, meaning all that is in our range of knowledge regarding this designation, mission, and purpose of Torah, be it for good or evil, which are either preparation for life and death, both are preparation whether you study the Torah or not, or reward and punishment for the righteous and the wicked in this world and the world to come. In all the teachings of the Torah, there is no mention of the tranquility of the wicked or the chastenings of love of the righteous. Hence, we see that neither of these puzzling anomalies is to be regarded as a reward or punishment from on high. Rather, meaning the riches or the sufferings, it's neither from on high. Rather, the tranquility of the wicked is for the purpose of magnifying their punishment and to increase their destruction, as it is written, "Only on slippery places do you place them. You throw them down into destruction." Psalm 73:18. For when they are conscious of their fall from an exalted level of greatness, their pain will be very great. This is like every movie where you have this super duper rich dude or super duper evil dude, and they lose someone close to them, or they lose their riches, and their fall is great, and then that's when they realize, I wasn't everything I thought I was, or this living this way wasn't everything that I thought it would be, and their fall is really great. There's so many movies about this. So too are the sufferings of the righteous. They are not a punishment from the Almighty. Blessed is he. If a good person is suffering, it's not a punishment from the Almighty. Rather, a tzaddik may desire them to suffer pain for having failed to perform a particular mitzvah. This chastisement will restore his soul to an improved level and credit to him the mitzvah as though he had performed it. And if we find that the prophets, that is Jeremiah and Habakkuk, were deeply troubled and pained by the tranquility of the wicked, it was not because they were pained by the good fortune of the wicked as a distortion of justice, but because they were concerned by the damage and harm caused to the righteous by the arrogance of the wicked and their power. As it is said, when the wicked devour the man who is more righteous than he. Habakkuk 1:13. So like the wicked could cause these damages upon the righteous. So Rav Bernstein steps in and he says, this is a lengthy commentary that the Sforno offers. He offers a unique interpretation of Rabbi Yana's terse statement regarding the law of the righteous and the fate of the wicked in this world, an enigma which has puzzled wise men for thousands of years. Why do the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? So he first defines the terms tranquility and suffering as applied by Rabbi Yani to the wicked and the righteous. The kind of tranquility he speaks of here is that which only the wicked can experience, for as he explains later in his commentary, it is denied to the righteous. This doesn't mean that the tzaddik cannot enjoy a degree of calm and serenity in his life, but it's not the shalom, the tranquility of which Rabbi Yani speaks, because that's reserved exclusively for the wicked. And even that tranquility is not one which the Torah fully explains. Following Adam's sin and his departure from the Garden of Eden, man has not been able to enjoy it fully, nor the tranquility, nor has it existed since the great flood, this type of tranquility. Only in messianic times will the righteous once again experience absolute tranquility. As for the suffering of the righteous, this refers to the Yisurim, which are visited upon him because he wants and accepts them. It must be the sufferings, Yisurim, so as to purge him and expiate his sins. So he's saying that these sufferings help to atone his sins. The Sforno's mention of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, refers to an episode related in the Talmud in Bava Metzia 84b, where Rabbi Elazar was appointed as a marshal by the government, and in that capacity he ordered the arrest of a certain laundryman who was subsequently executed. Rabbi Elazar agonized over his involvement, even though he was legally and morally justified in his action, and he accepted divine suffering as expiation for his sin. This is crazy. So he's a judge, and everything pointed to this man doing wrong, this laundryman, And Rabbi Elazar still felt bad that this man had to die, and he accepted divine suffering upon himself for an atonement, a kapara. This is another example of a righteous person's acceptance of suffering, which he can control. So that judge, he didn't have to ask for that atonement upon himself for his correct judgment. So it shows that a righteous acceptance of suffering, which he can't control, that he can bring it upon himself as atonement, but also has the power to stop it when he so chooses. The tzaddik desires their chastisements, but also controls them, which is why he can remove them if he finds them unbearable. This explains the episodes recorded in the Talmud where the righteous were given the option to accept or reject suffering. The main thesis of Rabbi Yonah, as expounded by the Sforno, is that the suffering of the tzaddik is not a punishment from the Almighty, nor is the prosperity of the wicked a reward or gift from on high. On the contrary, the latter is, as King David says in Psalms, for the purpose of increasing and intensifying the ultimate punishment in the world to come. That's why they're rich. Wow. Therefore, the expression, "it is not in our power," means that the Torah has not revealed these ideas to man. And all theories offered are speculative on our part, having puzzled even the prophets. The main thrust of Sforno's commentary is that neither the tranquility enjoyed by the wicked nor the suffering experienced by the righteous can be characterized as reward and punishment taught to us by Moshe, the prophets, and tradition, which is indeed a fundamental principle in our faith. That the idea of tranquility enjoyed by the wicked or suffering by the righteous is reward or punishment. None of this is taught to us. Let me say, rather they are meant to serve other purposes. And Rabbi Yanni states as a caveat that there is no certainty even to these explanations, for it is not in our power to fully understand the ways of the Almighty. And I want to make sure I read that right. The main thrust of Sforno's commentary is that neither the tranquility enjoyed by the wicked nor the suffering experienced by the righteous can be characterized as a reward or punishment taught to us. That was taught to us by Moshe. So Moshe, prophets, and tradition did teach that as a fundamental principle of Judaism. But Sforno wants to make sure that you understand they are meant to serve other purposes. And Rabbi Yanni states as a caveat that it's no certainty even to these explanations taught by Moshe, prophets, and all that. It's not in our power to fully understand the ways of the Almighty when we see these things happening. So that's that little bit of ethics of Pirkei Avot. And as usual, I'm going to tell you can get this on artschool.com. The Sforno commentary on Pirkei Avot with Rav Pelkovitz, and also it has some Bartanura in here. Or you can go to sefaria.org and get the Pirkei Avot, and it has Bartanura commentary only. You can do that for free. This one has a little cost to it, like $20, $25, I think. So thank you for joining. Again, excuse my voice, and see you next time. Pirkei Avot. We'll finish up chapter 4.